Hey everybody, Brad Linder back at you on a happy Saturday evening with a very rough looking Brainiac. I'm going to share this one over with the page real quick and do the regular routine of passing it along so other people can see it and share it in the good time. And we are going to knock this out right now. So, here we go. As soon as I can find what I did with my pencil. Here we go. So, anyway, this is kind of my personal take on it. I mixed a hodgepodge of a couple of the different versions and incarnations, and this is what I came up with. I've always thought Brainiac was a really cool villain that was underutilized, especially in the modern era of comics, um, because he was so, I don't know, how do I put it? He was such a main key player for so long in the Superman universe and the Super Friends universe that some people got burnt out on him and they stopped writing stuff for him for a while. And, they wanted something with a new edge to it and whatnot. And they didn't realize how cool and ahead of a time that he actually is. Because with the internet and digital age, he is a prime character to have show up and really muck up Superman's world. And nobody really wants to take advantage of that. I don't understand why they wouldn't. I mean, yes, he's messed up the computers of the world before, but the thing is now that he's involved in the universe at this level and the internet portraying the position it does, I think it would be a much more vicious character if he got utilized. But I'm not the one in charge over there. I would love to take a Superman stint and really plow through it with this character just being in a mini series or an arc and just really bringing it. But I don't know. Be my luck, they'd end up making him a big cloud. But that's I know, let it go, right? So that's one of those things that just as a comic follower and fan, it's just one of those things I just haven't let go of yet. I don't hang on to much like that, but this one is just, it's a stickler for me, that cloud villain thing. And it being the weekend, I'm kind of having a laid back fun day and working on some projects, knocking stuff out. I did a lot of leveraging stuff for my brand online and things like that. And it's been a prosperous day, if nothing else. Got a lot of cool stuff going on with this. This is the network port hub that he has attached into his head now that almost looks alien rather than him being a synthetic. It almost looks like he's a Martian or something from another planet, but in fact he is from another reality and time. In this version, I believe it's just far into the future kind of deal, where everybody's cyberjacked, kind of like the Matrix, and everybody's plugged in. This dude is no different, except for in his incarnation of the future. I believe that he took over and runs everything. So he got a little intense there for a while. But, party guy. Whatever works, I suppose. This character doesn't normally look grimacing, but I'm going to do it anyway because of the fact that with him emoting a straight face, I want him to look frustrated and stern rather than just looking, just sitting there looking flat. Because I don't like characters that look flat like that, because the face and the hands and then the body position, I've said this thousands of times now to everybody that I work with in comics, and it's one of those things, the rule of thumb is, if you don't have an emotional bond, excuse me, if you don't have an emotional bond transmuting through the hands or the face, then you're not going to get a life energy into the character that it's supposed to have for the ride of the experience, So you got to get in there and show that you got a character that's got a little moxie, as it were. So now what I've done is I've kind of put him in his own dimension here, his own interface world, as it were, a virtual escape. And because he's made of nanites, he can actually go into some of these things now. And I find it really fascinating. I thought, why not have him have his own virtual realm? So I see a lot of characters doing that these days. I've got one that does it, as a matter of fact, but it goes into the internet realm, as it were. And you guys will get to see that coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. I'm about 3 or 4 weeks away on that one. It's going to be late December, early January for that particular release, because I haven't colored it yet, and I'm definitely looking for someone to color it digital at this point, because I don't know that I'm going to put in the time for it, but we'll see. All this production talk, you guys really don't need that. I'm telling you, weekend, we're here to sketch a card. But thank you guys for all the feedback via messages for the upcoming Patreon account. That's going to be cool. That's going to be cool. I wish I'd have spoken more today. I didn't warm my vocal cords up like I normally do, and it always you can always tell it when I don't, because then I'll spend all day. It's just a coughing fit. It's like, talk to somebody, man. So, but I was working offline trying to produce some stuff. So that's where we're at right now. Yay us. And let's see. I got these little orbs, these orb things that Brainiac uses. They're almost like cells in the way that they network together. And I really dig these. Some of them normally work for like mini versions of his skull ship back here, which I've got coming through a portal, as you can see, or maybe you can't, depending on the ability of your monitor to pick up what I got going on. And if you can't see it, sorry about that. We will get to it momentarily. And we will knock it out. And it will show right up. As of this point right now, like I said, I'm making these little droids here. And their little wiring and stuff coming off. So we have all of that going. Bear with me just a second. I appreciate that, Deborah. Happy birthday to you and your sister both. Thank you very much for coming by. If you don't know Deborah, She's got some Deborah DeSoto. She's got some killer work. Her photography and her art's awesome. You should check her out. She has a very, very high-end take on everything. Very awesome young lady. Very cool, very cool. But, yep. Knocking out this background real quick, because he's going to fill in really quick, and I'm going to leave this open because this is purple and gray. So I'm not going to detail this out because I wanted to look, when I color it, I wanted to use Copics on it. And when I color it, I want it to be really bright and vibrant. So I'm not going to mess with that. It's going to be pretty abstract for the uniform portion. But I will be drawing some details into it to give it a little more life. But I don't want to have it all blacked out. I want it to be a little more old school and pop off. Got kind of a Steve Ditko thing going on with this one. You know, it's almost psychedelic with the way that this this little realm here is going to go off. Okay. Putting this other one here to show that go through. So we've got the works here behind him. We'll get the works on this side. And, oops, missed this side over here on this tendril. Need to connect that up. There we go, cool deal. Now, I'm going to draw this one in really dark so it pops him out. Same thing here. That's connected in the back. That's the reason it doesn't go into that port there. It's because it's connected into the back. So if it looks funky, that's why. Okay? So don't freak out on me. It's like, you didn't connect it. It just sits there. It's because it goes beyond. And beyond. Instead of Buzz Lightyear, I sound like Sean Connery with a cold. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. Strengthen that up a little bit so it pops out. Now comes the finer stuff, which I'm going to switch over to a 3 for this one so I don't crack it, because I don't want that one to be like huge. I want it to be very clean. And I'm afraid the bigger pencil, that 5 would make it a little sketchy, you know? Make it a little sketchy on the edge, and I don't want that. I want this to be very crisp. That's if I can hold the lead or not, because I keep snapping it off because I'm heavy-handed. Okay. Now, you guys may remember this from the old school Super Friends stuff. If you ever watched it, if you're a fan of it, I don't know how many of you actually are. I may have to go back with that 5 because my lead's empty and I don't want to take time to refill it. I'll just use very sharp lines here. Bear with me a second. I'm putting a point on this. Yeah, there we go. But he used to run around in this thing, and he used to take around all the supervillains. The League of Doom used to run around in one of Brainiac's ships, and that's what comes up out. If you watch the old intro, that's what comes up out of the moat for the League of Doom in the old Super Friends cartoons, the Justice League and Super Friends. It's one of Brainiac's original ships. Because originally, Lex Luthor created Brainiac. kind of like Tony Stark did for Ultron. But then the future version in the Silver Age came and killed him. And then we had the future version from that on. So always found that fascinating. He just kind of showed up and slaughtered himself. And it's like, well, you know, how do you exist if you kill yourself in the future or in the past? You know, if you kill yourself in the past, how do you exist in the future? And it's just like, well, I am a totally different generation. And I was like, okay, cool. Not arguing. Whatever. That's how you guys want to play it off. Fine. Whatever. I'm just screwing around right now, taking it all literal and stuff. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. It's comics. So you got to enjoy it and just go along for the ride and not take it too seriously, especially DC. Because, you know, everybody says DC is the most grounded, where Marvel is more sci-fi and fantasy and goes off its, you know, off the rails and whatnot. But the funny thing about that is if you check the track record of the origins of these characters, they're just as mythological or, you know, sci-fi or any of that, just as much as any of the rest of it. It's just Marvel goes into these extreme, miraculous, over the top, just epic scale definitions of how characters come into being with these origins. And then, you know, they have a whole back history for everybody, and everything is built up before the character ever sees page. And then you have, well, they originally didn't do that, but they do that now. They develop everything really high end. And the irony of it is, the way DC comes out, they just come at you and start the story. They want to tell you the story. They don't want to have the, you know, fill in the holes and leave the mystery and all that. And you don't get that with Marvel. DC's always in your. That's one of my favorite things about DC Comics is they're always in your face. You know, they don't play around. And when you open the book, it's like, who the heck is this guy? And by the end of the issue, you know who it is. You know, by the end of the arc, you know who it is. You know what's going on. You get clear and present danger, and it says, okay, this is the way it's at. This is the way it is. This is where it's at. This is what's going on. Watch yourself. And you're along for the ride, you know. And I think that's what makes that character development process so intense. And, you know, it's blunt, it's in your face, it's there. And they did that with the Justice League as well. You know, they just instantly, boom, the story's there, everybody's there, you're expected to know who the characters are or learn who they are in the ride along. And that's what happens. I mean, it's just right there. It's in your face the whole time. And I love that about the DC universe, both cinematic as well as comics. And a lot of people don't get that. You know, everybody that's a hardcore Marvel fan will go, well, there's no story. Well, the thing is, yes, there is. It's just you've got to pay attention to it because they're telling you the story. You know, where Marvel just has it pop out and starts you off from the get-go and builds that story up with a character that has a definite core-driven past already that you don't know about that's going to come up and unfold later. DC just drops the bomb on you and says, this is the way it's going to be, this is where we're at, this is what's going on, and this is how you make it happen. Now, right back here, I'm doing the Daily Planet to show this portal. I'm doing a little bit of a Daily Planet type of rendition right there. And then I've got a couple of buildings in the background kind of thing right here. Like that. Excuse me. Now we've got him going through the portal, okay? And this one being so small, I'm going to be very cautious with it and very light because I want to keep it open. I want to give you enough to see that it's the ship, but I'll detail more of it as I ink it and color it. I don't want to mess it up. So we've got that going on. Now we declared that it's the Brainiac ship. I'll put in these little ridges like he has here. And put in that little underbite to make that pop up. And round out the rockets just a little. It looks like a stuffed... This ship's always, if you take off the tendrils, which are back here, which I'll line those out in just a second. But if you look at this part, just this part, it looks like some kind of weird little doll. You know, feet, arms, body. Just creepy. It's like a little skull doll running around. But I've always found that fascinating by this character's ship. But it is what it is. So I'm going to fill that out just a little bit here, give it a little more definition and clarity as to where everything is. It's like I can see the tentacles now. Yay! Okay, we're going to go with this one right here. This one right here. And on down the line. Great. Now, for some reason, these tubes have an undershadow, and I don't know what they do exactly. I think they're navigation props, and these are like thrusters underneath here, or arm ports for him to like come out and grab stuff, but I'm not sure exactly how they work these days. Okay, there we go. Cool. He's involved. Got the ship coming through the portal. Now in here, what we're going to do, this is where I'm going to bring it to life for the Ditko thing. I'm going to go in real light, and I'm going to do this smoke business going through here like this. And I just want to make these really light, kind of like I did in the layout. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this an interdimensional kind of thing. Just going to kind of put that around to make it jump up a little bit. And the reason I say Steve Ditko is because of the fact that he did a lot of the Doctor Strange stuff. And Brainiac is like a Doctor Strange type of character, but yet a villain, because he works in another realm and another time. I remember reading a Ditko run on Doctor Strange. I can't remember the issues, but he was facing who was it? I can't remember. I can't remember the villain, but they made a plot to send him back in time, and they stuck him in the astral plane, and then they stuck him through time travel in a wormhole, and the spell sent him off, and he was stuck for a couple of stories in this alternate universe, and ended up getting married and stuff. It was weird, but it was great. I mean, he was there for like years on end and ended up getting married and whatnot. And then when they reset him back to regular time, of course, that all got expunged. But I have to look that up and find out which one that was. I'll have to look into the archives and find out which one that was, because that was a great read. It's a rare breed of nerdiness. Nerdiness. Love it. I do that with marketing and stuff as well, because it's just, I dig this stuff so much. I just know quite a bit. Of course, like I said, I digress and shot myself in the foot there with the whole thing of not knowing what issue it was. I should have wrote that down and made notes like I do for the podcast and kind of had that going on. But see, now you got that whole cell network, and then you got that foggy stuff in the background where you can tell it's not, he's just not anywhere right now on planet Earth that we recognize. He's definitely running amok somewhere off the radar, and that's what we want. So just going to go in here and cut out a couple of details to make these darken up a little bit and pop. Now in the 60s and even up into the 70s, they would have left these open and just colored these tubes in. Now Jack Kirby wouldn't have. He'd have put in all the little, the different variations of the cable and all that and popped it out crazy. But Ditko would have left it open and not putting all the fragments and segments and stuff. He would have said it was overworked, which was cool by me. I like that idea. And this is part of why I'm leaving the costume wide open as well here, because of the fact that I want to leave this to contrast. When it gets colored, I want all that busy work back there to make him stand out nice and clean. Like he is the understanding of the direction in the chaos. And that's what I want to reflect with this character. Sorry, I had to adjust my lamp. But I like the idea of that going on to where, like I said, he's just going to be all over the place. Back here with the chaos coming in, the portal coming in. It'll be some bright blue back there to show that. This will be some bright color in here to color that out. And then this will be a dark kind of contrasting pink or purple kind of deal to show off the opposing force of the port lights and all that from him, which gives off in the modern age, it gives off kind of a Tron effect, for lack of a better description. These little lights and runner strips kind of light up on him. Trying to think about what to say here with the look of it. And then these ports depend, because he's bright green, they like to go pink or red. It just depends on what you do with them and who the colorist is at the time. So a lot of people like to go bright red with them. I tend to go more pink or even a liquid yellow or liquid green kind of a thing. Like it's almost a plasma. It's got some weight to it, but it's fluid. I like to do that because of the fact that it just makes it look a little more organic. So, but it's all up to you, whether you do this when you're drawing him. When you're drawing the character, do what you want to do. Don't go strict unless it's specifically listed so you can keep the job. It's okay to tweak him. Everybody does their own version. John Romita Jr., when he did Spider-Man, he always drew him really blocky and put this massive head on him. And if you don't know what that is as a human being, for anatomy, that's called being a mongoloid. It means your head's disproportionate to your body. And if you watch him, he always makes the head of Peter Parker. And I know why he does it, because it's supposed to scale him up to make him look smaller and like he's supposed to be an awkward and gawky. And that's what JR would go for. But yeah, it was just crazy to watch some of that stuff, because they just go crazy with it. And where Todd McFarlane went, dark and gritty, If you're a McFarlane fan, awesome. If not, that's okay too. I'm cool with either way. But I personally am. Not necessarily about his work, but his style and work ethic and approach is what made me resonate with him so well, or him with me, depending on how you want to put it. But yeah. But Jack Kirby did the same thing. He took it and made his style his own, and then everybody thought, well, this isn't going to sell, and this isn't going to work, and this isn't going to, and he made, I mean, everything that the man touched turned to gold, and unfortunately, he didn't get any of it, which is quite sad. But that's the way of the business, And then the guys that are at Image now and a couple of other companies and a lot of independents are better off for it. It's like the old workforce. We didn't get holidays and vacations and days off and stuff, and we didn't have labor laws. Well, previous generations did all of that for us, and kudos to Jack for suffering that way, because he worked right up until the day he died to pay his bills and stuff and keep his family secured. And I find that really interesting that it played out that way, and I've known that story for years on end, way before, Kirkman and all these other guys started talking about this stuff. I mean, this has been in public knowledge forever. It's about like Bob Kane and Bill Finger, their Batman design dispute. And if you watch the films now, Bill's listed. He died in an efficiency apartment by himself, and that's just sad. The dude helped Bob Kane out, and that's where it went. So have your own voice, have your own incarnation of stuff. If you want to twist it up for the issue you're on, worst case scenario, they gripe about it and they fire you. Big deal. If you want to make the statement and you want to say what's going on, and you've got an artistic style and someone tries to change that, take criticism, constructive criticism, because it helps. But what I'm talking about is if someone goes in and says, well, that's not the style I want, or, you're an artist, can't you do the previous artist style? Don't kowtow to that. Don't give up your voice and your process for that. I see a lot of people do that just trying to make a quick buck, and it's a wrong way to do it. And I will tell you hands down, I'm normally not one to say, there's a wrong way, there's a right way, and then there's, a unique way as an alternative. But in that particular case, no, don't let anybody tell you to change your style just because of the fact. However, don't use the word style to, excuse me, draw something wrong on purpose either, because that's a catch-22 there. Okay, so understand, I'm not saying don't go off and draw bad and then just blame it on your style when you jack it up. Own what you do in the same respect and regard that you want to be noted for. So that's a big thing there that a lot of young artists do. They go, well, I don't study the anatomy in the same way, and this is the way I draw a hand. Well, he's only got 3 fingers. He's supposed to be human. He's got 4. Look at your own hand for the reference. Well, that's not the way I draw. I draw 3 fingers because I'm a cartoonist. And oh, please, don't get me started on that, because that's not cool. That's an excuse. So if you can't draw hands, learn to draw hands. Put in the work. Put in the effort. But let's see where we're at here. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going on a tangent or anything. I'm just going, I'm talking about this so that you guys learn this stuff, because I've got a lot of professional friends that I work with. But then there's a lot of students following this as well, and I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not going to go up behind you and say, your stuff sucks. I did that one time thinking it was a young kid. And I've talked about this story before. I did that one time on a Flash pinup that was up and it was Norm Rapman. And if you guys have been in the business or a fan for a while, he's been professionally inking since the 90s in Extreme, when Rob Liefeld started his chapter of Image, and at Extreme Studios. And he works for DC now. And that busted me up to no end when I found out it was him, because he had a flash and had, it was, I believe it was the right hand, his right hand, and his right leg up in front together, which if he'd have run like that, if he would have been running like that, he would have fallen over. Okay, I mean, it's common sense, it's physics. But the way Norm did it, he drew the right hand up and the right hand up and the right leg up in front. And I said, hey, man, this looks, he posted about it. And then I was like, hey, man, this thing looks great. And, but, there's a problem with it. And I said, it's just bugging the crap out of me. I said, I don't want to judge you, but I said, can I mention something? And he said, sure. And I did. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's really going to ruin my career, man. And it turned out to be the real Norm Rapman, which he and I had been friends on Facebook for a while. And I had just never talked to him much. And the dude's phenomenal. He's funny as all get out. And just as nice as can be. But that was one of those instances. So, take this with a heat of warning here, and don't judge people just to judge them. I mean, if it makes a comment and you think you're helping, like I was doing there, we have a good laugh about it once in a while. It's like, he's going to fall over. At least you drew the arm and the leg right this time, and he thinks he tolerates it at least. But then he gives me tips on stuff too, so it's a very nice rapport, very nice guy. But yeah, be careful about how you go about that, because it'll bite you in the butt. And I never thought twice about it. I just thought it was a great thing, and I was just gonna jump on there and help him real quick, because it was eating at me, because I knew it was wrong. But he didn't care, because it was a fact. One, it was done at a con for a guy and for a visitor, and for two, when it happened, it was already done and gone, man. I mean, he didn't care. He just sketched it out real quick, and that's the way it came out, and that's the way he did it. I'm kind of putting in this this old school Kirby style V mark here with the facial features, because he's supposed to be, the nanites are supposed to be taking over and making him a little more tech. So I'm going to put in a couple of light divides here. And like I said, this is my version. So I'm going to put in a little more right in here to kind of pop him up a little bit. But I'm not going to overwork this, because I don't want to make it a problem. Just kind of connecting stuff up a little bit. And making this brow pop up a little bit more, because I want it to have a little more leverage to it. By leverage, I mean I want it to have a little more depth. And this is an homage right here to the classic, the classic Brainiac, because if you remember, the old Brainiac used to have the top of his skull sawed off, where all this stuff was attached, because he was a synthetic body. And I think Lex Luthor made the one in the original one, I think, was a Frankenstein style, and I think he was a cyborg, not a real synthetic. But I don't hold me to that, because I'm not sure about that. I don't want to make that claim and it not be, but I think it was. That's the old school one with the green skin and the purple tights with the white gloves and the the white gloves and the black and boots and the black pants, or the black Spanx with the green legs. They gave him sleeves and gloves, but they didn't give him pants. Kind of making this connect here a little bit under the chin for the piece going through his chin there down into his suit. Light up these ports. A little bit of connection. Leave that bigger one alone, because this one's a huge one. It's like his forehead, and this one's got a smaller jack in it. But for a Saturday, that's not too bad, folks. I think we've got it going on. However, I do want to put in a shadow right here under his chin, just a little bit. Because no matter how clean this is going to be, he's still got a massive chin there standing off that nugget of his, and it's going to protrude out. So we're going to make that work. There we go. Cool deal. And I know I said I wasn't going to black this out, but what I'm going to do is put a little bit of a black right here across the collarbone to show that indentation just a little on the bottom side for the heavy reach of the weight to pop him out just a little more. And then I'm going to put a little bit right underneath the pecs right in here. I want to put a thin line right up underneath here, right off the edge. And what that'll do is that'll pop that up. Make it separate just a little. To define the body. Go off the shoulder here just a little too. I think it was Eric Larson. Don't hold me to this, but I think it was Eric Larson that said that Brainiac is he's the Tin Men from Hell. And I thought that was kind of interesting that he would say something like that. I knocked my notebook off the desk. I don't know if you guys do this or not, but I use notebooks like crazy. I unfortunately, I kill a lot of trees because of that. I use notebooks like crazy because I write notes out of my head and write stuff down rather consistently. And then I have to clean up those notes and put them into, digital logs or archives or whatever at the end of the day. And it's how I build up information databases and, ideas and concepts that I'm working on and tracking stuff. And if I stop to put in every individual thing, I say I have to make a note on this, article I wrote today. I have to make a note on this, this analytics point today, or, this comic page that I'm working on, that kind of thing. I keep handwritten logs of that stuff, and then I log it in at the end of the day. I take time out and log it in. The reason I like to do that is because of the fact that whenever I work old school that way, it just keeps it out of my head in the moment so that I can continue on with my work until that point comes up, if that makes sense. So, but anyway, I'm going to go around this real quick, kind of put a thicker line on here. I'm going to use the old Jack Kirby trick of putting the thicker line on it because it's closer. And we're going to pull it out this way. So now he's going to pop off of there. Now I really like doing work in scale like this, the foreground, the background, and the middle ground. I like doing heavy work this way because a lot of artists don't anymore. Everybody's all thin line, and that's fine because that's the style right now. But I personally don't like doing thin line work. I like doing the thicker because I like to give stuff body and make it pop up. Whoops. I carried that way too high. That's okay though. it's still going to make it pop up and look good. So whatever. It's not about being perfect. It's about being productive. So there you go. Cool deal. Brainiac is done, folks. I hope you enjoy it. Catch you again tomorrow for another one, and we'll go from there. Happy Saturday to you. Take it easy. And say hi, say bye, say, hey, Jim. Say hi, bye, smile, wink. Waggle your tongue at somebody. It'll be fun. Do anything to provoke them and get a smile out of them and a reaction, because if you can make somebody laugh, then you've done your point as a human being in the world. So see you tomorrow.